How's it going, everybody? For today, it's time to do a whiskey review. And particularly, we're going to be taking a look for my first review at what is, so far, my absolute favorite go-to single malt Scotch whiskey. And that is Highland Park 12-year-old. Now, Highland Park 12-year-old is what is considered by most to be a little bit of everything. And it's a good starting point for people who are first getting into Scotch whiskey drinking. So what I want to do here is go ahead and get this into the glass and put some water in, and it can sit and do its thing while I tell you some information about this whiskey. So. Now this is one that comes in at 43% alcohol, so I would say probably about a teaspoon at most, not even, of water. That's about enough. Alright. Anyway, so just to give you guys some information and do a little bit of reading here for you, it says this is a uniquely smooth, balanced single malt with a rich, full flavor and a gentle, smoky finish. Now, this is a Highland whiskey. Now, for those of you who don't know, there are different regions in Scotland known as the Scotch whiskey regions, and where your Scotch is being distilled at has a lot to do with its flavor profile. I won't go into all of them right now, but what you need to know for this review is that this comes from the Highlands of Scotland, and the Highlands encompass most of the Scotch whiskey region area. So that being said, instead of it having a definitive flavor profile like so many of the regions do, the Highland regions kind of have it all. They can kind of be wild cards sometimes, but I think Highland Park is a good example of the Highland style because it has bits and pieces of all the styles combined into one and done so very well. It may have some sweet fruitiness from Speyside. It may have a little bit of smokiness from like an Islay whiskey might have. It might have a little bit of a gentle lightness to it, like a lowland whiskey might have. Different things like this. You could have maybe brininess in it from it being like, say, Campbelltown influence. So as far as this one goes, I think the big two influences here are kind of a mixture of Speyside and Lowland with a little bit of Islay because it is a little bit smoky. The back of the box here says, Highland Park, we insist on uncompromising approach to whiskey making. We're one of only a handful of distilleries that slowly malts its barley on a stone floor, turning it by hand and thereby delivering a more balanced flavor. Next, we smoke the barley over an aromatic peat, hand-cut from Hobbister Moor to bring a unique, fragrant heather character to the whiskey. Then, the spirit is taken from the stills and carefully filled into sherry oak casks from Spain. These deliver priceless natural color and a distinctive honey sweetness, perfectly complementing the aromatic peat. Next comes the hardest part, leaving it undisturbed for 12 or more years to mature in the consistently cool Orcadian air. When it's ready, we choose and combine our best casks, then leave them to settle and harmonize. The result is a uniquely smooth, balanced single malt with a rich, full flavor and a gentle, smoky finish. It's the kind of dram you long for when you've worked as hard as we have. Gently smoky but surprisingly sweet is the perfect way to describe the uniqueness of Highland Park. The meeting point between the aromatic peat of Orkney and the sweet sherry oak casks from Spain ensures this perfect balance is always achieved. So this is not a Scotch that's been finished in oak or sherry casks, and this is one that has been aged its entirety in sherry casks, which is why it has just a little bit more of a kind of golden honey color to it, even though I don't believe there has been any chill filtration or caramel coloring added, which is always nice. And that's something that's kind of interesting about Scotch is you always have people who comment on that like awesome deep mahogany color, and it's usually not real. It's usually E150 caramel colorant that's being added to it to make it seem more appealing to the eye, and it's usually not a good reference point on color. So it's nice when you see something that has a natural color to it. So, yeah, not much more information here. This is one that's bottled at 43%, which is just above the standard of like a 40% alcohol, like bourbon or something like that. So, we've had it sitting here for about 5 minutes or so. I've got my taste notes right here. So let me flip to where I've done Highland Park, and I'll go over this with you. For the smell, lots of green apple sourness to it. I would call it like a medium sweet green apple, but it definitely has the tart and slightly sour acidity of a green apple. I get a lot of rye on that. Little bits of maple and kind of like a sweet wood sappiness to this as well. Little hints of brown sugar and mild touches of honey also. So just to read, I am kind of smelling the same things that I put down when I did this about a year ago. Green apple, rye, maple, sweet wood sap, mild honey, and brown sugar are the main things I'm picking up whenever I smell this. So I'm going to add just a little bit more water here. As far as the taste, it's a taste you'll come to know and love if you give Highland Park a try. It has definitely a mild and gentle smokiness. This is not like an Isla where you're tasting like burning campfire twigs and coal smoke and things like that. It is a very gentle smokiness on the back end of the whiskey. There's definitely the flavor of green apple coming through. The smokiness almost has like a slight meaty quality to it. Very light touches of almond, more on the bitter, savory side of almonds, but there is a bit of sweetness too, maybe like marzipan. It has a what I would call like a medium mouthfeel to it. Not particularly thick or syrupy, but certainly not watery either. Kind of like a light oily consistency to it. Definitely it is smooth on the as far as the mouthfeel goes. For the finish on this, it has a long burn. It's still burning. Not in a bad way. Warming, I guess, would really be the term for it there. And the flavor, as far as the finish goes, is medium. It resides in the palate for not too terribly long, but it's not an instant quick finish either. And I would say the finish is mostly smoke, light smoke, and just a little bit of sweetness. And it does have a bit of a tannic ending. Or tannins rather. It's a bit drying to the mouth. So my rating on this whiskey from a 0 to a 100, this whiskey gets an A from me. I would give this about a 96 out of 100 in my own personal rating because I really enjoy this one. I do think my score may be a little bit biased on it, but I have tried plenty of other scotches, and this one is definitely my favorite. So I say that even to the most demanding Scotch connoisseur out there, if you haven't given anything by Highland Park a try, you really ought to, because it mixes flavors from all over the region in a way that I haven't tasted in other whiskeys before. There's really nothing else out there like Highland Park, and because of that, it is its own unique flavor profile. I think it is something that should be in any Scotch collection, and definitely, as they say on the back of their box, the perfect way to, or the perfect dram to come home to when you've had a hard day at work. It really is. It's not necessarily one of those super special occasion drams like you're going to crack open the Macallan 18-year or some very special expensive thing. It's a just kind of an everyday sipping Scotch is what I would call it. So that's been my review of Highland Park 12-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. Hope you guys enjoyed the review, and stay tuned for when I do my next whiskey review.